Eins, zwei, drei. Wenn dir deine Welt zu klein ist, du auf andere Welten geil bist, dann brich zu anderen Sternen auf, steig auf den Schicksalsberg hinauf. Winter's coming, spür die Macht, fang Vampire in der Nacht, lern Klingonisch, hau den Zombie, Pratchett, Heinlein, Abercrombie. Träum den Androidentraum, verlier dich tief im Cyberraum. Bei 451 Papier verbrennt, wirf einen Blick ins Otherland.
Hi there, I am Joseph Fink.
And I'm Jeffrey Craner.
And we wrote this book, Welcome to NightVale, or...
Willkommen in NightVale.
Yep, he pronounces that better than I do. And we're here to tell you about some books we like. I'm going to put this back on the shelf behind us.
Perfect.
So it's right there for you to get whenever you want. The first book I'm going to talk about is Ray Bradbury's The Illustrated Man. Ray Bradbury, he wrote, I think, he claimed to write a short story every single day of his life, of his adult life. I don't know if that's true. I do know that he probably has a larger number of great short stories than pretty much any other writer I can think of, and this is probably his best collection. It is just a collection of very, very memorable stories of science fiction, I guess you could say, but I think they're just more about humans and what living in any world is like.
I'll follow that up with another classic book that I absolutely love, which is Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. In growing up in America, we were required reading in high school was George Orwell's 1984, which is this like fascist regime overseeing the world. And I later picked this book up, and I think it was a really fascinating, different take on the idea of like a dystopian future, a future rather than an oppressive government. It's people who oppress themselves through their own enjoyment. I think it's a really brilliant book. I think it's really funny, and really, for a book written almost 100 years ago, foretells a lot of really amazing things about the future.
And hey, speaking of dystopian futures, here is my favorite dystopian book, The Giver by Lois Lowry. Yeah, I read this when I was very young, and it had, I think, a very profound effect on me and my writing. I think it's probably one of the best dystopian books ever written. I hear there was a movie. I hear it wasn't very good. So, even if you saw the movie and you didn't like it, the book is truly incredible. Years after she wrote it, she started writing books that take place in the same world. The first one was Gathering Blue, which I think is as good as The Giver. It kind of goes the complete other direction with the future that The Giver does. It imagines a future that is almost the exact opposite of the first book, but is connected in a lot of ways that you start to learn throughout the book. Those two books you really couldn't go wrong with.
I'll give you a book that just came out, a year ago, maybe? A little over a year ago?
Yeah, about that.
Wolf in White Van by John Darnielle. I would imagine many people already know John Darnielle through his amazing music, through the band The Mountain Goats. This is John's first novel, and it's a really amazing piece of work. He's such a talented writer. If you listen to his music, his lyrics are brilliant. He's a really smart and evocative songwriter, and that comes through in this book. I was so impressed when I read it. It's a beautiful story and a really sort of like harrowing and sad story about memory and about a thing that sort of happened, a terrible sort of piece of a young man's past, and how that sort of unravels. And he does so in a really amazing way, playing with time and playing with perception. It just feels like this is like his 6th or 7th novel. It was so well written. It was one of my favorite things I read all of last year.
It's really good. Did they translate my quote? Oh, they did not.
No. Joseph's quote was on the back.
The American version has me saying this is a good book on it on the cover. It was, I think, one of my first published writing.
Yeah.
So for our last couple books, we're going to move into the world of comics. This is Saga, which I had heard about for years, and I just picked up this last year, and it is such a completely absorbing story. It's Brian Vaughan, who has written extensively for both comics and also TV shows. He wrote on Lost, among other things. And he decided to create, I think his entire intent was to create a truly epic story that would be impossible to adapt into any other format. And so it's just this impossible to describe amazing space opera about these two warring species of aliens who fall in love and have a baby. And so it's about big science fiction stuff and war, but it's also about new parents, learning how to raise a child, and about the very practical aspects of that. And it manages to be both at once in a really amazing way.
I love Saga. I'm almost caught up on the most recent issue, and it's really tremendous. And then this one is Sex Criminals by Chip Zdarsky and Matt Fraction. This is one of the more amazing concepts for a comic book. It's basically you have a couple who it starts with a story of this couple meet, and they both find out that they have the exact same superpower, which is when they reach sexual climax, all of time stops. So they then decide in having sexual intercourse with each other. During the time stoppage, they are going to start robbing banks in order to save the local library. And it's such a great one. Such a hilarious concept. The comics are really, really hilarious. They're very dirty, but they also handle all of that with a way that's not childish. They do it in a way that feels very adult, in a way that feels mature, and they handle sexuality as it goes along. It starts evolving stories of couples in a way that is super mature and not just the silly joke of stopping time with an orgasm. But it's a really, really brilliant series. Yeah, I highly recommend this. I think that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot more recommendations, but this is all that's in my lap.
Okay. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was fun.